Hey guys, it's the Horror Junkies of Utah. I am Marcus and I have
Alex!
Alex, and we are back for our podcast, which this is going to be our last one for a while because this was the season finale. The episode is entitled The Last Day on Earth. So, Alex,
Yeah.
you were texting me when you were watching this episode last night, I believe.
Yep.
And I just want to give you props real quick on your little Facebook post. It was awesome.
Go on.
Uh, just this post that you did. I think you said Daryl dies. Awesome, and you had a couple people freaked out. It sounded like,
Yeah. Touchy Walking Dead fans.
and I knew as soon as I seen it, like he's so full of shit. But it was awesome. But while you were texting me, it seemed like you didn't enjoy it at first, but you may have had a change of heart about 30 minutes through.
Yeah, this is an episode I don't like, but I don't hate it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
I think in the context of the show, when all is said and done, it'll be a really good episode. Like if you're Netflix binge watching, 2 or 3 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a good episode. But in the vacuum for what it is, if we're talking about it in real time, I get so much of the gripe of this episode because the question going in to the episode was, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the people who got captured? What's going to happen to? I mean, our immediate question is, what's going to happen to Daryl? What's going to happen to Rosita? What's going to happen to Glenn and Michonne?
Yeah, and
and that question is still not answered at the end of the episode.
No, and they don't even touch on that whole storyline. Instead, we're presented with two storylines. One being which Rick takes a group of people, far too many in my opinion, out to try and get to Hilltop because we have
Maggie.
Maggie and her medical emergency. And we also have the other story of Morgan searching for Carol.
Yep.
And nothing about our Glenn and Daryl and Michonne story plot is even mentioned. They kind of just show up at the end of the episode, but it opens up with us kind of following Morgan, right?
Yeah, and he finds the horse in the field that says, "You are alive." The sign says, "You are alive." He tells the horse, "You're alive, horse," which I guess they only had Mr. Ed over in Alexandria. Hops on the horse and goes to look for Carol.
Very true. And I think it gives a little bit of a nod to our original season 1 with the horse in there, and we have Rick. And he's
Right.
kind of traveling around on the horse, and now we got another horse. But basically, he finds Carol, and who knows what really happened to her. There's some dead walkers. It looks like she's still suffering from a wound in her stomach. Was she shot? Is that what it is?
I think so.
A bullet wound. And he kind of gives her the whole spill. These your people, they want you back. They care about you. And she's like, basically, I can't kill for them. Isn't that what it comes down to?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, this story had me so disinterested. I don't remember much about any sort of wound on her because my focus and what I wanted answered was what happened to the other people.
Exactly.
And that's, again, we were talking about the gripe with the first story. The second story, and which I get why people don't like this episode, like hate this episode. Let me put it another way. People hate this episode.
Are you getting a lot of people telling you that they hate the episode?
Oh, yeah. So many people hate the episode. In fact, we'll talk about it more, but Chandler Riggs actually came out and said something on Twitter. He plays Carl, if you didn't know. He plays Carl. But this episode in this part of the story opened with Morgan's trying to save Carol, and it ended with Morgan's trying to save Carol.
Yes, very much
So it's very circular.
Yeah.
I mean, something happens, we see a change in Morgan, nothing in Carol, and I don't know. This episode, at least in that part of the story, had a lot of wasted space.
Yeah, the plot line really didn't go anywhere, and it was just not interesting at all. Um,
Yeah.
really boring. And then that guy comes back in that she had kind of decimated his whole group, and he's back to get his revenge on her. He's gonna die, but he's gonna make sure she dies slowly.
Right. And so he shoots her twice in the arm so that she can kind of bleed out. And this is where we're saying something happened with Morgan. Morgan pulled the gun on the guy and, gave his usual speech. You don't have to do this. You don't have to die today. And when the guy was like, fuck you, whatever, and pulled up the gun to shoot Carol, Morgan shoots him 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
and then
is not Morgan. But I think so many people in this story or in the fandom don't care about Morgan anymore. He's turned to a whiny little hippie character.
I liked
that. I mean, we've covered basically the only other thing that's important is he gets found by the guy who lost his horse and his buddy in their lacrosse gear. And we've covered this whole side story that took up 20 to 25 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, and there's literally almost nothing to talk about. And, I used to really enjoy Carol's character, and I really enjoyed Morgan's character when we figure out why he thinks all life is precious and the lessons he goes through. But now their character development and them as characters is so bad, in my opinion. They're almost becoming characters that I don't relate with anymore, and I could care less whether they lived or died, or there's no emotional connection there for me anymore with Morgan or Carol. They're just annoying.
Yeah, and the thing I don't get about the Carol character is why is she all of a sudden super upset about everything? That's the one thing I didn't get.
Yeah, and I don't think
they... It's just like she shot the wolf, and then all of a sudden she got in a fight with Morgan and is now all about how, I can't kill for these people now. The people that I killed for, I blew up the Terminus facility. I didn't care then, but now I really care. And it's so sudden, there's no real build-up to it. And I can appreciate the change if it had been done well.
Yeah, like if we had more of a backstory to why she's starting to feel this way, but it's literally almost done in one episode of just all of a sudden she is now super depressed and doesn't want anything to do with anybody.
Yeah, she goes from hating Morgan because Morgan, this is my family. I won't kill for my family. I'll protect them. So what the fuck is wrong with you? You gotta shoot and kill people. That's what it is now. To I can't shoot and kill people because I don't want that to be how it is now, and I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah, very, very, very weird. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the Morgan thing I'm okay with a little bit more because he's almost the stick to your guns kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then it's in dire situations, the true survival comes out. He knows deep inside what he has to do, but he can kind of control it now, where beforehand he couldn't. He didn't freak out after shooting that guy. He didn't go after the 2 lacrosse guys and their horses. He was far more under control, and he knew that what he was doing wasn't as much killing as it was protecting.
Now, if I'm right, our 2 lacrosse guys are another group that is in the comic book. I can't remember what they're called, but they're more old school.
Yeah, I think... God, I'm going to get killed. I think they're just called the Kingdom. Could be, but I'm pretty sure they're just the Kingdom.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, something along those lines. But basically, that's the whole... That's the whole... It's like a side story that's unnecessary.
Right, well... Yeah, it's necessary, but it's unnecessary for this episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it could have been done in the next season.
Right.
Or they could have done it, but they could have made it far shorter. It was just very drug out.
Right.
In my opinion, it was a way to take a break from Rick's group without commercials, but we'll just go to this instead.
Right.
Because I literally felt just as interested in the side story as I did in the commercials. That's when I was kind of toning out.
Yeah, I think they did it to kind of control the pace of the main story, but it didn't keep up a good pace, if that makes sense.
No, it just
Um,
made the episode longer and unnecessarily so. I mean, I get it's a 90-minute block episode, which literally was like 65 minutes. You get your 90
yeah,
from commercials, but I think it could have been just a normal length episode without so much of that.
yeah. I agree. I think we covered this one really well. I guess I'm kind of interested to see where it goes because I kind of like this change with Morgan, but I don't. I'm so detached from Carol at this point. But it will be nice to get new characters introduced, kind of like how we talked about with the Hilltop. It's always nice to have new characters, new ideas, new insights, new ways the way people think and interact, and this idea that there's more than one group out there, that we trade with all these other groups, and we find out they're not really trading; they're working against their will for somebody else. But this idea of cliques or fiefdoms, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and so basically that's we got that out of the way. Finally, we can actually
Yep.
talk about the part of the episode that I enjoyed, and that's this story to help Maggie, and we're gonna get her to the hilltop to the doctor because she's having complications and is not doing well.
Right.
And so we have a whole ton of people that volunteer to go with. Rick almost doesn't want this many people, but what's his name? Is it Brandon?
Abraham?
Not Abraham. What's
Oh,
her name's? It's one of the Alexandria originals. Which
Spencer.
Spencer? Yeah, he's like, I'm going, and the only way you're not gonna let me go is, basically punching me out. But basically, we have all these people that are jumping on this bandwagon to get out of here and help Maggie. Which I'm like, why do we need this many people? But I mean, obviously they need the protection, but in the end of the episode, it kind of screws them because all our valuable characters are captured. But they group up and they're going to leave, but Carl ends up locking Eden in that
Enid?
closet, right?
Yeah, he locks up Enid. Yeah.
Enid, that's her name. And that's interesting. Like, he doesn't want her to go out and experience this.
And then it's never spoke of again. She's just locked in the closet for the rest of the episode. She'll be in that closet until October.
Yeah. And so the group's ready to go, and I'm surprised who they leave in charge for security over our little township.
Well, who else are they going to leave in charge at that point?
Well, you have a valid point. There's no other characters that any main characters besides him that they
Yeah.
can leave in charge.
So,
I mean, we just have the priest. What's his name?
Gabriel?
Gabriel. There we go. And he's put in charge of protect this land, whatever. We're all gonna go out and we're gonna get this done. And they end up running into the saviors.
Yes, and who we've seen previously chasing down someone, telling them, we told your group how it was going to go. You didn't listen.
Now, this person that they end up running down, he's just random, right?
Yeah, I couldn't find anything out about him. So as far as I know, he was just some random clod that they found.
But
Unless, for some reason, they thought he was part of Rick's group. I don't know why, but I mean, as far as I can tell, it's just a random dude.
Random guy from another group that's just put there so we get the point that the saviors are very serious.
Yeah.
And this henchman, Negan's henchman, I'm going to call him like Negan's lieutenant almost.
Just call him Trevor.
That's what I was about to say, and Craig pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh, wow, it is from Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yep.
So, perfect choice. I'm glad that they used this guy because he can play a pretty good lunatic.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he did a really, really good job. Looked the part, acted the part. He not only did he act a little bit out of his mind, but he looked
Out of his mind.
Yeah, it looked real crazy. So I think he did I think his name's Og or Oog, O-G-G. Let's call him Trevor. He did a great job.
Yeah,
That's his last.
we're just going to go with Trevor. But we have this squaring off of these two groups, which I expected a gunfight right away, but
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you said that. These guys went. They knew who they were. There was no question about it.
Uh-huh.
And they snuck this compound. They killed their friends in their sleep, burned them alive. Why? They had their guns out. No one in Trevor's group had their guns ready. They just stood there. Why would they not just take out the two guys with the assault rifles and then let the other guys try and shoot at you?
Yeah.
That's the thing that didn't get me. Why did you not get in the RV and just plow through them? Because it's very uncharacteristic of how you've been doing.
Well, it's like every time that these groups have met so far, there's been fighting and gunfire and all that, and now it's like all of a sudden this square off situation with no gunfire, and Rick and Trevor have this kind of discussion about your last day on Earth.
Yeah. What if it's your last day on Earth? Oh, yeah. But what if it's your last day on Earth?
And then it ends. They back up, get out of there, and they decide to go another way. Which I'm just like, why didn't you just fight right then? Because then it kind of gets repetitive. But I see where they're going with it. Kind of the hopelessness and helplessness of our group, keeping they keep running into these roadblocks and these saviors. And again, no gunfire, no nothing.
On the second one, I kind of rolled my eyes. It was like, really? You just did this?
Oh, okay. With the larger of the two groups?
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of rolled my eyes at that part. Jesus. Again, just kind of, we talked about that last episode.
Uh-huh.
Reusing ideas from the episodes before. It's like, great, now they're just doing the same thing in the episodes for this padding. But then they did something awesome, and I know I sent you a Facebook message.
You didn't tell me what, though, so
I said, watch
tell me now.
The episode, nothing's happening, this is boring, and then I said, wait a minute, something badass just happened. And in the episode, they set up a chain wall of walkers. So, 8 or 10 zombies just in the road, yes, chained up. They get out, and they notice that one of the walkers is wearing Michonne's clothes and has one of her dreadlocks, or two of her dreadlocks, whatever, stuck in the side of the head of the zombie. And then we found out that one had Daryl's crossbow, and I think his jacket, but I'm not sure. My screen was really dark. Mm-hmm. The crossbow really stuck out. That was awesome. That was one of my favorite just fucking with you tactics that I've ever seen in the show. And it's a way of... They didn't have to say anything. They didn't have to say anything to him. They knew exactly what was going on when they saw the clothing and the crossbow. And the saviors are saying, you're fucked. We have some of your people. Shit's not good. Clearly, because as I said, this takes a lot of manpower to chain up these zombos to make a chain wall.
And that is the turning point of the episode. I think we have, okay, we're running into problems. We can get over this. And Rick's like, we will persevere. We will get to the hilltop because we're all together and we've done this as a group and I know I'm going to make it work. And then right there, I kind of see in its face like, oh shit, I might be wrong. Yeah,
it was a turning point, and like I said, it's one of my favorite tactics that I've seen. Because it's kind of like how they say, showing without saying, or saying without saying, however that phrase goes. Mm-hmm. They are telling Rick's group, you're not as safe as you think you are.
Yeah.
You're not just running into us out of coincidence.
Clearly this has been a planned maneuver, and I think they're starting to get that in their mind. Like, man, they are blocking us in. We're literally not having a good day.
Yeah,
it's kind of like they're playing a game of chess with each other, and it's just not working for them. And checkmate's coming pretty soon, and they don't see a way out of it. And finally, they get in, not a gunfight, but like Rick says, after they start shooting at him, like, they wanted us to go this way. They're telling us something,
Right.
And they come to another roadblock, which is a bunch of trees. And I love how Eugene's like, not only do they have a lot of manpower, but they got some pretty big toys or something like that.
He
But
looks at the tracks and the right.
but just to see
Yeah.
that they've gone through all this trouble, and I think Eugene gets it as well. It's like they know what they're doing with us right now, but we don't. We need to get
Right.
out of this. And they
Then they have
drop
the. Go ahead.
they drop that guy that we seen in the beginning of the episode. They from a chain, hang him right there on the overpass.
Right, and for me, that was I love that scene and I love that idea. I think that sign is far more effective if they use someone from Rick's group. I was really bummed when I found out it was just that random dude.
Oh, you mean like to see Glenn?
Yeah, or anyone from their group
Yeah.
hanging.
Oh yeah.
Like that would have been such an incredibly damning image to show. Of course they don't. It's just the random dude that they found is the guy that they hang in front of them because they don't want to kill off main characters in the show.
And
Even though I guess the idea would be that everyone has to be around on their knees to watch somebody die. I mean, I have a hard time justifying it outside of it. They didn't see the person beaten to death. Do you know what I mean? And their whole thing that they said they do that for is to send a message. So I guess maybe they hadn't gotten the villain diatribe, so it had to be a random guy.
Yeah, true. They light that little forest pile on fire. The Trevor guy starts talking from who knows where. And they decide we're running again. And I think they realize they're running out of options. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is when Eugene decides to become the hero.
He has a master plan.
And
He's flawless.
he says they don't know how many of us are in this rust bucket. They just know we're in it.
Right.
And so he's gonna. It was like very.
Yeah, he's gonna drive the RV.
And he's gonna get caught. We all know it. I mean, even the characters themselves, like when Abraham and Eugene are saying goodbye, it's like they're saying goodbye for good. Like, that's just what I got.
Yeah, I had the same impression, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, excuse me, my thought was they know like, this group is more clever than Rick can imagine, and the rest of the group can imagine. And I mean, it shows that they did know that this is what was going on, but it's almost like they had eyes everywhere with their infinite manpower army.
Okay, that is my one gripe, I guess. It's not even really a gripe, but Rick's group's encountered so many other groups of tremendous, villainry. We had the governor, we had Terminus, we had the crazy cop lady on a power trip to save the world, but it's got to be her way. We've had all these groups and all this stuff that's happened, but for some reason this Negan group has figured out the cheat code for unlimited guys.
Yeah, Rick's group has unlimited ammo,
and
they have
Negan's group has unlimited men.
Yeah, infinite guys.
It's 2 cheat codes in The Walking Dead. But, I mean, basically, Eugene takes off, and our characters are left kind of in a very bad position because we have Maggie, who's not well at all.
Right.
And now they're forced to kind of create a gurney and carry her out of there, which pretty much disarms 2 more of the group. So now the only ones with the ability to be on guard are Carl, and I believe that isn't who else is with him. We got Abraham, we got Carl.
Are you thinking of Aaron?
Yeah, there we go. She's the only other one with a weapon readily available.
Well, it's a he, but
Oh, no. There's another girl with him, isn't there?
Sasha?
Yeah, isn't she with him?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so we got 3 people with weapons readily available, and Abraham and Rick are carrying Maggie, and I love this scene. We get it like comes back from commercial break, and we just have this walker walking along and gets his head cut in half. And I'm like, that
Right.
would have been so effective in season 2, but now we don't even care about walkers. They're just in the foreground. Like, it doesn't even affect anyone. Like, a cool
Right. They're
effect, but
just kind of
whatever.
there.
Huh?
They're just kind of there. They get in the way.
Yeah, like, get out of my way. And they're making their way, and this is where the episode I really started to enjoy it. We get this whistling that we hear from this group. Like,
Right, and it's playing in the very beginning of the episode as well.
yeah, I'm gonna say it's their signature calling card. Like their theme is this whistling. When you hear it, you know they're around, and we hear it, but we think, oh, I thought, okay, they're in a tough position. They're gonna get in a little gunfight. There's maybe 4 of them out there or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, they slowly get boxed into the destination, which that Trevor guy brings up. Welcome to the. This was where you're going.
Yeah, welcome to where you were going.
Yeah, we knew it all along. And there they are, surrounded by God knows how many unlimited guys. Guys and gals, I believe.
Yeah, it's just
And we see in the foreground the RVs there, so we think, oh man, Eugene must have been captured, which we see he was. And then they bring out, they all get on their knees. They see that they're in a helpless situation.
Yeah.
They're disarmed. Besides Carl, for some reason, he leaves that gun in front of him. But I think it was to prove a point that this was one of our guns.
Yeah, he says that to him in the episode. Negan does.
And
he says, "This was our gun." You took my gun. Anyway, keep going.
Exactly. So they're all sprawled out there. It looks like you would be if you were under arrest. Put your hands over your head, and get on your knees, blah blah blah. And out comes now Glenn, Michonne, Daryl, and is that all that's in that little trailer?
I think you missed Rosita.
Oh, and Rosita, yeah. And they come out, and Glenn sees Maggie, and we think, oh, God, here we go. Like, a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for Glenn, because he doesn't know what's going on with her, and sees her there in such bad shape. But they're all lined up, and Grog, or Grug, or we're going to just refer to him as Trevor, is like, all right, we're all here, now let's meet the man. And he, like, Negan comes out of the RV, and it's our first look at him. What did you think of Negan's look?
I think it was perfect. Well, I guess, yeah, maybe not perfect, but he did a really good job. He looked really good, played the part really well. I had a hard time pegging who would play him. When you read the comic ahead of time, you're trying to cast people as you go.
Yeah.
I've always liked Jeffrey Dean Morgan, even though I'm a bigger fan of Javier Bardem, who he's often compared to, just because they look the same. Javier Bardem, if you guys don't know, he plays Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men, probably his most popular role.
He does, yes.
And Jeffrey Dean Morgan's, I would think, would be the comedian in Watchmen, but I'm not sure.
He also was in Grey's Anatomy way back when.
He's in Grey's Anatomy. He was in Smoking Aces. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
So good casting choice, though. I mean,
Yeah, I think he did really good. My initial pick, if I had to pick someone, would be Thomas Jane. But I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan is still a really, really good pick.
And
looked the part, acted the part. Very intimidating guy.
But another thing happens. Another character gets introduced, and it's his weapon.
Yeah.
Lucille.
The bat wrapped in barbed wire.
And I love
weapons of all time.
What was that?
I said probably one of the more famous comic book weapons of all time. I mean, it's like you said, we're introduced to another person. The bat is often referred to as if it was a person. It's personified as being somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to do that with weapons, but this one was done very well, you know.
Yeah.
And it glimmers there, and it's on his shoulder, and he's so nonchalantly approaching these guys, and I love how he tells them, "I bet you're pissing your pants" or whatever.
Uh,
And you can just tell this guy means business.
yep.
It's no negotiation. He's telling them how it is. You know, basically, I don't want to kill all of you, but I want you to work for me. But you killed a lot of my men.
Yeah. Um, it's the idea of Rick thinks that people he disagrees with are going to get in the way, whereas I think um, Negan. Sorry, I kept thinking Morgan because that's his last name. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Sorry. Negan sees people as power, and that there's more. You can have a bunch of guns, and you can be a crazed lunatic like Rick is,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have manpower, that's what's important. Having
Yeah.
a bunch of people. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense because we've been talking about his army of endless people.
Oh yeah.
You know, depending on how many people he's encountered, if you think a group would have 6 or 10 people, if he kills one and then the rest just kind of follow and join in this group mentality, it makes sense. I don't think it's likely. I still think it's ridiculous that he has half a city working for him. But in the context of his approach to being a leader in the post-apocalyptic world, it would make sense why he has so many people.
And he starts conversing. You know, he's like, "Who's the leader here?" Talks with Rick for a second. Um, then he goes over to Carl and has something interesting. That's where he is like, "This was one of our guns."
Yeah.
Right? And then I think he says to Rick, like, "This is your son," right?
Yeah. Kind
And,
of has this realization that that's his kid.
and Rick's like, "Stop this! Hey, don't you do that again." I love it. I was like, "I'll let that one slide," but no
Oh,
fucking.
he says that when Glenn
Oh yeah,
freaks out.
when Glenn, because we think he's about to choose Maggie because she looks like shit.
Yep, and that's when Glenn kind of freaks out and says, "Everyone gets one." You know, hey, Spider-Man, everyone gets one, right, Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Yeah, everyone gets one. I get it, but that's it. That's your warning."
And here is my biggest thing. Do you have anything else to discuss before we just go to the conclusion of this episode? I know you said that Carl's character tweeted something.
Yeah, I'll tell you that because I know what you're going to talk about. I'll tell you what he said. But I think for the first time in a really long time in the episode in the show, there was a feeling of real helplessness.
It did a great job of building this up. I was like sitting on edge at the gym,
Yeah,
like on the
sitting on it.
treadmill.
But there was such dread because there's no way we can think about how they're going to get out of this. There's no. Carol's been shot. Morgan's watching after Carol, so she's not going to come in and save the day. We're not going to have Rick coming in on a shiny horse or Abraham just kind of showing up and shooting people down with a gun because they're all there.
Yeah.
We know something bad is about to happen. And so there's this real feeling of dread and helplessness, and I think it's done very well. Which leads to the part which, like I said before, I get why people were upset.
Well, and this is what made me mad because AMC had posted this thing, and it was a picture of Negan with Lucille, and it said something like, "Someone's meeting Lucille tonight. Who will
Right.
it be?" And it's like, and then they did the classic Walking Dead thing. "Ah, we got you. First person
Yeah.
perspective, you got to see it kind of happen, but you don't know who it is till October. Have fun with that one." Which I think
Yeah.
was kind of a cheat. Like, you could have showed us who we lost.
Right. So I will. My 2 cents on it was this. I think you could have made an amazing episode if you had seen who he picked and he just pulls back, and then that's when you hear the hitting sounds. So that way we know who it is, but we don't see it happen to them.
Got ya.
You hear characters yelling or crying in the background, so you know what's actually happening. That is such an easy fix to keep it interesting. I had a friend who's a big Walking Dead fan, big fan of the comics, and his, we were talking about it, and his idea and thoughts were, they can pull off one or the other. They can either do cliffhanger ending or a satisfying ending, but it seems they have a hard time giving you endings recently that both leave you feeling satisfied and wanting more.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to think back to some really good examples. I think season 1 and season 2 both did it really, really well. Imagine if season 1 ended with them in the CDC and the guy says, yeah, all the doors are locked, all the windows are bulletproof, and the oxygen's going to burn, and we're all going to die. So if you want to live...
That would have been the huge cliffhanger.
Now's your time to leave. Boom. Ended. Well, okay, we found out they're locked in and what's going to happen to them, and... Okay.
Exactly, and that's not how they did it, though.
And then... season 2, you'd have Shane freaking out, and him and Rick getting in a big fight, and that's the end.
Yeah.
And then, that was episode 5. Not episode 5, but the last episode before the season finale in season 2. Season 2 was, I think, one of the worst seasons, because it started off so terrible. You know what I mean? Like, we're on the farm. Ooh, there's a fat walker in the bottom of the well. This whole episode revolves around him. But then, Shane gets killed by Rick. And then zombie Shane gets killed by Carl. And then there's a giant herd of walkers coming. And that's the end of the episode before the last one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You feel, okay, the arc with Shane has come to an end. Oh my God, what are they going to do? They've never encountered a group of zombos this big.
Well, exactly. And I feel that this episode didn't do that.
Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah, and then the next episode, they fight off the walkers. Then Rick is like, hey, by the way, everyone's infected. When you die, you come back to life. And then the prison's in the background. Okay, they got out of there. They have to find a way to infiltrate this new place. Everyone's infected. Oh, man, I feel so good about how this ended. But I can't wait for more.
Yeah, and this episode did not do that for me. I was so excited. I was on edge, and then as soon as it went to that first person view, I was like, they are really going to pull this? And besides not liking the Morgan Carroll story, and besides not liking the ending, I really enjoyed the story up to it, but then that just got me. I was like, you assholes, you guys are playing this card a little too much lately. Because we had that happen with Glenn.
Right.
And then that was like over the whole summer or whatever last year. Oh, man, is he dead? Is he not? How's that going to go? Remember?
Well, yeah, it happened in
the third episode. Spanned over a couple episodes or whatever,
Right. Right.
So what was this thing that was tweeted?
I'm sure... Let me take a step back. The Walking Dead has a great way of ruining The Walking Dead. The show constantly ruins itself because they can't stop talking about how great the show is. So I'm sure you and many other people heard the announcements where Melissa McBride, who plays Carol, was talking about how the season finale is so shocking. It just left me sick in my stomach. Oh, it was so gross. Ugh. And Andrew Lincoln, same thing. I was physically ill after this season finale, but this season.
Yeah.
And then Chandler Riggs puts out, I don't even know who died. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you get that people, what is it? Do you guys know what happened? Or are you just a piece of shit?
Well,
Like,
you see,
Did you know? Like, I want to know if the actors knew if they were going to do this cop out ending or not. Because
and
there's no, like, they have to know because there's no. Well, they have to know what happened. I guess that, they're not the producers, they're not editors, but they have to know what happened.
Greg
And so
Nicotero.
for me that means either um, actors are shitty liars, which it might, him saying I don't even know what happened. Who knows? Means he's a terrible liar, or the producers don't give a fuck. Like, here's what's gonna happen, everybody. Just kidding. We're gonna slice it up and get people to watch next year.
Well, and
So,
yeah,
it wasn't the ending that they were expecting. So I want to know, hey, after you watch this, was this the ending you guys thought was going to actually be in the show, or did you guys know that there's going to be a big shitty cliffhanger ending?
from what I gathered, Greg Nicotero did a tweet or a post, and obviously he's the creator of this show now. And he said not even the actors know who's not coming back next season.
That's bullshit. Because Daryl's safe because he signed a contract extension through season 7.
Okay.
But do you know what I mean? Why would you sign on a guy? They should know based on their contracts, or they have terrible agents. I don't know which it is.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, that's
but it doesn't.
how can you not know? Because they got to give you some foresight into what your work schedule is going to be like.
And at the same time, why would they film? I mean, unless they don't show it, unless the next season starts with them back in Alexandria, and that person's just not there. But there has to be flashbacks, and maybe I'm just projecting what I would want into the season.
I agree. And do you have any idea who you think it would be?
Okay, this is where I wanted to get to. Anyway, all I wanted to say about that previous thing is it wouldn't make sense to film anything afterwards. 6 months down the line.
Oh,
you want to get all your filming done on that location with all those characters and all those actors because they'd all have the same clothing, and you run into things that fuck up the continuity.
Well, I couldn't agree more. They got to. You would think that they would film the death scene and showing the character dying why they were there, not, 3 months later we're going back.
Okay, so supposedly there's lots of clues hidden throughout the episode on who it's going to be. If it's anything like the previous deaths, my guess is Aaron. Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he has a character. And that's kind of stuff we talked about with Denise. If all of a sudden people start talking to you about you, you get more lines, you're going to be dead.
That is a good clue. So is that your pick?
Let me hear your thoughts. Because I have other thoughts, but I want to hear some more of yours.
I think it could be Carl.
I don't.
You don't?
No, because whoever got hit at least twice or 3 times before they fell down. And I don't think that him getting hit in the head with the bat by him, I don't think he's getting hit in the head and then sitting right back up.
Well, maybe it's not Carl because also we did a first person view and it would have been covered one eye.
Right.
So I just think Carl would be very shocking, but I guess this show doesn't like to do shocking that way anymore.
Right.
I was just thinking maybe he's growing up too fast. They want to get rid of him. He can pursue his career other than just The Walking Dead. That was my thought. But if I had to peg anyone, it would be Glenn, just so they could be a little true to the comics.
Yeah. It's one of those things where if they really want to make the fan base happy, it needs to be either Glenn, Abraham, or Eugene.
Yeah, one of those
Don't
three.
have Rosita. You can't kill Carl and you can't kill Rick. Well, you can't kill Rick, but I don't think you'll kill Carl either.
And you think Michonne's safe?
You can't kill Maggie because she's pregnant. And people would flip the fuck out. I guess you could add Daryl into that mix too. I mean, I think a lot of people want to see it, but again, I think since he signed that extension and that went public, because The Walking Dead can't quit talking about The Walking Dead, that he's okay too.
Yes.
So I would have to say, if The Walking Dead's gonna do what The Walking Dead does, it's Aaron.
All right.
And again, so if I have to pick, Aaron or Abraham, one of the two.
Aaron or Abraham. I could see Abraham. He's Barley. He's big tough guy. Gets hit with a bat once. I can see him raising his head back up again.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, he has the storyline with Rosita and Sasha, and he wants to have a baby. There's the whole conflict of if you're gonna have. Before he said, if you're gonna have sex, you cover up. Basically, you gotta know what you're doing when you're going in to talking to Sasha about how he'd be willing to raise a family.
Well, true. Well, I think there we have it. Are you excited for the next season to start in October? Or
Nope.
is it kind of just like whatever?
Nope.
Not excited at all.
Nope.
Well, I guess we'll...
You just throw me in the group of people that just feel like the show's cheated them. And I opened up this second set of the podcast by saying, hey, they've won me back because they kind of had this brutal, gross episode and all this crazy shit's happening on these 2 episodes. Really kind of pushed the limits with the little kid getting eaten. Man, that was tough. I can't believe they did that and a kid got murdered.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would take to bring me back as a viewer. Because, again...
Well, I'm going to bring you back as a viewer because we're going to have to start a podcast again.
Right. As someone to watch the show for enjoyment, there's a difference. I'm watching the show more now because I like working with you. I think we have good sexual chemistry and a lot of fun. But as a casual viewer, am I going to get excited to watch episodes? No. I mean, I'm excited to watch Better Call Saul tonight.
Yes, that is a TV show that hasn't worn out its welcome. I don't think The Walking Dead has done that. I just think that they need to get back to how they were previously.
Well, yes, and I think it just needs to be a show that's not afraid to upset its audience.
And that's what they do, but then it upsets us.
They want to present us with this idea that no one's safe. This is a horrible, terrible, brutal world. No one's safe. Anyone can die at any time.
Yeah.
Unless you're popular. Unless everyone likes you. Then you don't die.
Or we'll play it off like you died and then bring you back magically because we'll drop a dumpster on you for protection.
Yep. So, until they can actually shake that kind of trope that they carry around in their back pocket, I won't be excited to watch the episodes.
Well, sweet. Well, we got Alex's point of view, and I myself am feeling a little indifferent about The Walking Dead lately. But regardless of that, we will be back to talk with you in October. We hope you have a great summer. Enjoy Fear the Walking Dead, which will be coming back on as its filler for The Walking Dead here next week or 2 weeks from now. Anyways, I am Marcus.
And I'm Alex.
And Alex looks like he's having such a great time. He looks tired over there. Did you stay up too late?
This episode scared the pants off me. I couldn't sleep.
Anyways, on that note, you guys have a great night. We will see you in October. Bye-bye.